A warm welcome. You're tuned in to Eye on Africa. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Biahi. These are the top stories on the continent. DR Congo's Joseph Kabila holds his first press conference in 6 years, during which he refutes claims that his forces violently dispersed anti-government protesters. Our correspondent brings us the latest from Kinshasa. Outrage grows as at least 30 African refugees and migrants drown off the coast of Yemen in a boat operated by smugglers who reportedly shot at them. We speak to the IOM's chief spokesperson, Leonard Doyle. And after coming under fire for reportedly making disparaging comments about Africa, President Trump offers an olive branch at the World Economic Forum in Davos. All that and plenty more coming up in the programme. We begin in DR Congo, where the country's President Joseph Kabila this Friday rejected allegations that his forces had violently dispersed protesters who took to the streets calling for him to step down. In his first press conference in 6 years, Kabila in turn accused demonstrators of arson and attacks on his security forces. France 24's Thomas Nicolan has the very latest from Kinshasa.
After 5 years without a single press conference, President Kabila wanted some quality time with journalists, and he took his time. He spoke for more than 2 hours before answering many questions. No groundbreaking revelations, but he did discuss many topics, and he had a message to send to the Congolese people only a few days after yet another deadly riot in Kinshasa.
Notre population doit rester calme.
People must stay calm,
Et l'on fera tout pour que
and will do everything
les élections soient effectivement
to make sure these elections are
pas
effectively
n'importe
organised.
quelles élections,
And not just any elections,
des élections
free and
libres et
democratic
démocratiques.
ones. Elections organised
Des
by the
élections
Congolese
organisées
people,
par les Congolais, pas les élections
not elections influenced by anyone,
qui sont influencées par
any country, or by
un
any
pays
group of
ou un
countries.
groupe de pays.
President Kabila was very critical against the UN, who are not supposed to stay forever in this country, according to him. He also asked for a copy of the Constitution to be brought to a journalist who asked whether or not he would run for president for a third time. So the opposition surely won't be convinced by this intervention, but the aim was to be more transparent with the press and at the same time with the international community.
Well, staying with DR Congo, almost a year after the country's best-known opposition leader, Etienne Tshisekedi, passed away, his body is still at a funeral parlour in the Belgian capital. An ongoing dispute between Tshisekedi's family and the Congolese government has prevented his remains from being repatriated. This next report was shot in both Brussels and Kinshasa. Nicolas Germain, Alex Le Bourdin and Thomas Nicolan sent us this report.
Etienne Tshisekedi's widow railed against the injustice of the situation. Her husband's body has now been in this Brussels funeral parlour for 1 year. The coffin of the former leader of Congo's main opposition party has still not been repatriated.
You can only grieve properly when your loved one has been buried. That is when you can become free again. That is when you know that life goes on. But here, time has stopped.
Tshisekedi's family and the government cannot find an agreement regarding the organisation, the date and the place of his burial. The opposition leader's son believes President Joseph Kabila is deliberately delaying the repatriation.
I
think the main reason is that the authorities fear the return of my father to Congo. They think there will be a popular uprising. But you cannot have unrest during the burial. That would be contrary to all he ever fought for.
In Kinshasa, the government said the family had set unacceptable conditions for the body's return.
We were a little bit surprised by what the family wanted to do with this sad event. They wanted to politicize it. They said the body would only return if his son, Felix, was appointed to the government. And that's completely immoral.
1 year after Tshisekedi's death, no one knows when his body will leave this Brussels funeral parlour to be buried in his homeland.
At least 30 African refugees and migrants have drowned off the coast of Yemen in a boat operated by smugglers who were reported to have fired on passengers. Well, according to survivors, an overcrowding boat carrying at least 152 Ethiopians and Somalis capsized after leaving Aden for Djibouti on Tuesday. Well, the International Organisation for Migration is just one of several agencies who've expressed outrage over the incident. For more, Leonard Doyle is chief spokesperson for the IOM. Mr. Doyle, thanks very much for speaking to France 24. This appears, by all accounts, to be an incident of forced repatriation. What more can you tell us at this stage?
Well, the details are really quite sketchy, apart from the fact that you clearly have a group of migrants who were desperately trying to get home, among them some refugees. And they seem to have been forced return, deported in other words. And then tragedy strikes when it seems the smugglers decide to start shooting at them, and about 30 of them are murdered on the high seas. This is a real tragedy, and it's part of a long ongoing story of how refugees and migrants passing through Yemen are being exploited and treated abysmally badly.
I mean, this route between the Horn of Africa and Yemen is very well used, is extremely dangerous. It doesn't get as much attention as routes, let's say, out of Libya do. Talk us through why that is.
Well, there's a natural bias, I think, because of the nature of the news media. It's not to criticise it, but just the nature of it, of migrants coming towards Europe tend to get any one of the 28 member states of the European Union excited about it. But migrants going to the Gulf region don't tend to get that degree of attention there for all sorts of reasons. But there's no doubt that their suffering is as great and as relevant and needs as much protection as does the suffering of migrants coming to Europe. And the tragedy is that it does not get the attention. We're delighted that France 24 is looking at it tonight.
OK, Leonard Doyle, you're chief spokesperson for the IOM. Thanks very much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Cameroon separatist leader Sissokou Ayuk Tabe and 9 members of his movement have been extradited to Yaoundé following their arrest in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. There'd been no news of the group since January the 5th. 34 other separatists were previously arrested in Nigeria, where they'd reportedly received weapons training following violence in Cameroon's English-speaking regions. Now, a fortnight after coming under fire for alleged controversial comments on Africa, President Trump sought to smooth things over at the World Economic Forum in Davos today. While meeting with his Rwandan counterpart, Paul Kagame, Trump praised relations between Washington and Kigali, calling Kagame, quote, a friend. Well, not everyone was convinced by his olive branch. Some African delegations choosing to boycott Trump's maiden speech. France 24's Shirley Sitbourne has this report.
This was Donald Trump's key move to calm the storm triggered by his reported insults toward African nations. A one-on-one meeting with Paul Kagame. By shaking Kagame's hand, Trump wasn't only embracing the president of Rwanda, but also the incoming head of the African Union.
I want to congratulate you, Mr. President, as being the new head of the African Union. That's a great honor. And please give my warmest regards.
President, I wanted to thank you for the support we have received from you, personally, and the administration. And we are looking forward to also working with the United States at the level of the African Union.
When journalists tried to get a statement on Trump's reported comments, they were shown the way out. The U.S. president sent a letter to the African Union hoping to boost relations. But many are not ready to turn the page, including several delegates who published an open letter and boycotted his speech.
Thank you very much.
What we want is to be treated as equal partners, contributing towards the safety of the world, respect the climate, respect the investment in people, respect the deconcentration of economies from the bigger nations, also to ensure development in other nations as well.
The African Union is now meeting in Addis Ababa. One of its goals, finding a common approach to the controversy.
And finally, family and friends of South Africa's jazz legend Hugh Masekela have been celebrating his life at a memorial gathering today in Alexandra Township. 78-year-old Masekela died on Tuesday following a rather lengthy battle with prostate cancer. Among Masekela's greatest hits were the beloved anthem Bring Him Back Home, when he demanded Mandela's freedom from jail and, of course, grazing in the grass. Well, President Jacob Zuma praised him as a jazz artist, legendary trumpeter and liberation struggle veteran. You're up to date. Your Eye on Africa team will be back in about 45 minutes' time here on France 24. Up next, Thomas Waterhouse will be with you with more international headlines. Stay tuned.